Hello, everyone. It's time for another Spooky Comics chat. Today's installment of Spooky Comics is going to focus entirely on spooky superheroes. And so, first, as always, is going to be Kara to talk about her all time favorite spooky comics. And yeah.
Thank you. The first one we're going to be talking about today is, of course, a Batman book, The Long Halloween. So the premise behind this story is that Batman, Jim Gordon, and Harvey Dent are all investigating a serial killer who calls himself or herself Holiday. And the killings happen all on holidays, starting with Halloween and ending with Halloween. This includes a lot of iconic Batman villains, including Falcone and Maroni, as well as Catwoman, the Joker, Riddler, Solomon Grundy, and Scarecrow. And it is considered a definitive Batman story. So great to read any time of the year, but even greater to read at this time of year when you want something really dark and spooky.
Big fan of that one in particular. There's a neat callback to that one in, I believe it's Arkham City in the video game, if you guys have ever played that. First comic that I am going to talk about, first I'd like to note is a digital one, or it's an ebook available on Hoopla, because I am currently reading one-handed. And the first one is Hellboy. This particular issue is the Wild Hunt. So basically giant creatures are being summoned all throughout the British Isles, and Hellboy and the rest of his investigative team are being sent to take them down. Those of you who are unfamiliar with the Hellboy comics or even movies, he is son of the devil. He is destined to bring ruin to the world. He's got the big right hand. But one thing that I like especially about the comics versus the movies is he has kind of this like dry paternal instinct to him, which makes him a very natural leader for his crew. He's very calm. He's got some fun powers, dry wit. This one in particular is good. It's got some really, really neat creatures. I like anytime little dudes take down giant creatures. But really, you could start with number one and go on forever. And with your library card, you can just keep checking them out. And Hoopla keeps approving more checkouts. So it doesn't need to stop there, because when you finish the entire Hellboy run, you get to continue a little bit more with Mike Mignola as part of the next comic, which is Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment. And this is a really fun crossover because Doctor Strange, who, as everyone knows, is the master of the mystic arts and is a good guy, teaming up with Victor Von Doom, who is the Fantastic Four's primary bad guy, to go to hell and fight Mephisto. Dr. Doom, apparently annually, fights for his mother's soul against Mephisto. Mephisto is, of course, the Marvel Universe's version of the devil. You don't see him a lot in other properties because he hasn't really become a movie villain. But he's a very fun villain in the comics. And this one you get to see some very neat Doctor Strange magic powers. And Doctor Doom, anytime he gets to be the gray matter villain, which they've been doing in recent runs too, I always like when they get to play around with him. Makes the villains more interesting when they get to team up. And yeah, and how Halloween is that? How spooky is that? You get to go to hell to fight the devil. Why not?
Doctor Strange is one of the Marvel characters that I definitely would prefer to read over others. His stories are really interesting.
It was X-Men and him and Spider-Man when I was a kid. It was a very fortunate thing that I discovered Doctor Strange. Otherwise, I probably would have turned out way more normal than I did.
Right. We talked about Doctor Strange earlier when we did, I think, Neil Gaiman. We did Marvel 1906. My next one I'm going to talk about is actually a DC Kids comic. They come out with these comics about different DC characters, more for kids. So this is Zatanna and the House of Secrets. So in the DC universe, actually, it's pronounced Zat-Anna. They make a point to say this in the adult comics is the way that her name is pronounced. And this is the kids' version, and it's about her growing up in her house, which people say is a very weird house, and they talk about it a lot and avoid it a lot. But she is the daughter of Zatara, a famous magician, and he is also Dr. Fate at one point. But she doesn't know that he has magic. She thinks it's just like magic tricks, and she thinks the same for herself. Until a witch and her son show up and try to claim their house, which is also a magical house and has many secrets. One of the things I like a lot about this is her spells work by saying words backwards. So you see her trying to figure that out here, but then also like she does it for the first time on accident by saying a palindrome, where her face is getting redder and redder. So she says redder, redder, and she ends up turning like these boys like completely red. Yeah. So that's it for our spooky comics, but there are many other super spooks out there in both the Marvel and the DC universe. Which include, I think we were talking about Swamp Thing,
Ghost Rider, Morbius,
Bizarro,
Nightmare.
Mhm.
There's no shortage of spooky comics.
Right.
And the Amazing Nightcrawler counts. He's got the devil tail. He disappears in a cloud of ash and brimstone.
We want you to tell us in the comments who your favorite super spook is. Alexander, who's yours?
It's Nightcrawler. He's number one superhero no matter what, but I think he counts for being super spooky, even though he's super positive and cheerful.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Mine, I think I have to go with like anyone from the Batman universe because of the mood. It's so spooky and can give you chills sometimes. So that's a great one for Halloween. Pretty much any Batman story.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Scarecrow myself.
Yeah, for sure. So we have at least one more spooky comic chat coming up. So stay tuned for that. And I believe in January, we were also going to be doing a live comic discussion with Books on Tap. So keep your eyes open for that as well.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good Halloween.
Yes.